just from a regular standpoint, my initial call, which was a while back, and then all the interactions throughout have all been great, professional. If I send an email, ask for something, response time has been great, or getting back, or here we're a response that, hey, this will come in a few days, or we need to look into this or something. You're not hanging in limbo.
When did you start with us?
So I guess November of 2022 officially.
Okay. And what was the goal? What was the major thing that you were trying to solve when you got started?
Well, two things would be: one, tax strategy, because I knew I had a big tax bill potentially coming up, and I was starting to try to mitigate things, but I needed some actual tax mitigation help. And then we had 20 years ago started a will process and thing and never even got to that. And it's like I needed to get an entity structure in place and make sure that me, my wife, my family, that we were protected from anything that would come up from lawsuits or whatever, and that, and just beneficiaries and estate planning, all that, all wrapped in one. So that was maybe three things there instead of two. It was tax strategy, legal protection or asset protection, and then estate planning.
All right. And do you remember how much, the tax question here, how much were you paying in tax just in general at the time? And then also, what was this big tax bill that you had coming through?
Yeah, so I knew we had purchased an apartment complex in 2021 in an LLC, and business partner and I, and we had some investors that were friends and family that we had raised funds from. And so we went full cycle on that 52 unit apartment complex in about 15 months. So we were selling that. We closed on that, I think it was June 30th. So we knew there was going to be a big increase in hit to, because the LLC made a lot, was then going to distribute it to our investors and then to my business partner and I. We had looked at potentially 1031 exchanging, but it was going to be a little complicated with because of the entity structure. We'd have to do a swap and drop and swap and some different things. So we got some other counsel from some investors and some larger players in the space, and they were like, sometimes you just sell it, take the tax hit, essentially. So I was trying to mitigate some of that tax hit with some tax planning strategies.
What was just your regular tax at the time? Do you have a ballpark?
Because typically I was just a W-2 earner, right?
Right.
So my tax liability would have been 20 to, yeah, probably 20 to 30,000 roughly. And I think 2021, I actually did have some pretty good capital gains from stock market. I was doing a good bit of trading. So that's what it would, 30,000 say in 2021.
And what was your investment ROI looking like from the stocks or anything else? Do you have a kind of ballpark how much passive income or stuff you were doing?
Well, that year when I was trading some option strategy, some wheel strategy, and I was averaging about 1,000 a week, or just under. So I was doing pretty good. But then the market shifted. I got stuck in some trades. So it's like, so, and I've held on to some of those since then. But yeah, so that was pretty good. But I wasn't into any real estate or anything like that. Wait, 2021 would have been, yeah, when I started into real estate as well.
So then after working with us, were we able to help you achieve those original goals of estate planning, asset protection, and the tax?
Yes. So asset protection, we're able to put my properties in a series LLC. We're able to put it under a holding company, and then also this operational LLC, because I'm managing those properties by myself. We've got a revocable trust set up for my wife and I, and we're, obviously have that, and instead of, it's the I guess it would be the living will, the power of attorney, those type of things. All that's all set up now, and we didn't have any of that in place before. So that was really good for peace of mind. And then have everything. Nothing's going to have to go through probate now. It'll just be, go to the trust and be distributed as the trust indicates to, our heirs and things. For the tax strategy, obviously, there was a lot of good things that you're able to do for me. We were able to classify my wife as a real estate professional because she's a stay-at-home mom and helps out with the real estate a little bit here and there, doing things. Although she does enough to qualify, I guess, would be the right way to say that. So then the passive income and that I was invested in some limited partnerships and some syndications. So they did cost segregation studies, which then had a passive income loss for the most part, which could then offset active gains or the capital gains from the sale of the apartment complex as well. We were able to set up a 501c3 foundation and transferred some assets into that, as well as some monetary funds because of, and be able to mitigate some taxes that way as well.
So what was the total tax savings then that you were able to accomplish?
So according to Pete, it's 160,000. But I would say, yeah, I had done some of this stuff. I started on my own, but to get everything and to get it, I mean, I think the foundation saved something like $32,000 right there. And then, being able to claim the real estate professional status and some of those other little things would get us to, I think close, a six-figure savings in taxes.
All right. Awesome. And the 160 was basically as compared to if you just did nothing.
Correct.
Just in a vacuum. Okay, perfect. Okay. And then were you able to generate, did you go for a syndication or anything? Have you been looking at any of the investment things to accelerate the returns you're getting on anything?
I have like 5 different multifamily syndications. And so what I did when we got this chunk of funds, I diversified geographically and across various alternative assets. So I've got multifamily properties in Tampa, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, Phoenix, Arizona, the Texas area, let's see here, and then in Pennsylvania. And then I have a car wash fund that I'm LP in that has some in South Carolina, Virginia's, a car wash or truck wash in Texas, it's like a golf course and wedding venue in New Jersey, and then also a mobile home fund park that's in the Carolinas as well. And then there was another House Hack, which is a company that is kind of like investing in single family properties that will buy them, and they're only starting kind of the end of this year and then going on at kind of with the wedge deal, meaning the houses were potentially in its current condition it might be worth 150, 200. You're buying it for a little bit less than that, putting 30,000 in, and now it's worth 300. So holding that, renting it out. So there's a company doing that. I invested a little piece in that, and then he wants to eventually potentially take that public. So that's doesn't have the tax advantages that the LP positions would in these multifamily and these other properties, because at the first off, like you said, they did a cost segregation study, and in 2022 it was 100% bonus depreciation. So we were able to take advantage of that. This year, anything, is only 80% bonus depreciation, any new type deals one would be in.
What kind of impact on your financial timeline do you think working with RLS has had already? Maybe just time-wise, has it sped you up at all towards getting to your financial goals?
I think yes, I think so. At least a few years. The biggest thing, and I've heard people say it on podcasts or webinars, is taxes are the biggest thing that kind of weighs you down in the wealth growth stage. And I was like, okay, yeah, I understand it, but I didn't really understand it or really know until I can see the effects of how much taxes I would have paid from real estate that I was able to then mitigate and roll into like a whole other investment and then have stuff, as well to offset and be able to use that capital to continue to grow and put it back into what the IRS wants me to do, put it back into multifamily properties so that it's perpetuation. So I offset my taxes and then provide housing for individuals, because that's what the IRS wants you to do. So if you partner with them and do what they want you to do, you can save the taxes.
Right. Well, that's amazing. But you just got into real estate investing in 2021. What made you decide to go for that?
I was talking to a friend and he had some different, I think he had a trucking thing, and I started looking into like a business sort of thing, and then started reading some books and listening to podcasts. And then he's like, you need to read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I read that book. That's like one of the triggers. And then I talked to my friend who ended up the guy that's my business partner too, who owns some real estate. So I started looking into it, and then COVID hit. No, so it'd be 2020, not 2021. I'm sorry, it'd been 2020 because COVID would have hit, and that's when I bought my first property. Was a single family, like a townhouse, and then we were looking to buy the apartment complex, but it fell out, and then they tried to go somewhere else and it came back to us. Then we bought that in 2021. So it's been a little over 3 years that I've owned real estate as an investment, not as like my main home.
Okay. And when you got started then, up until you met us, were you doing anything with your tax or asset protection? I'm assuming you had insurance, but nothing else?
I had insurance and I used TurboTax.
Oh, okay. Beautiful.
Actually, no, that for 2021, that's the first time we got a CPA. Once we bought that apartment complex and things, that was the first year I used we used the CPA that was for the business, and then we just had them do our personal taxes as well. But CPA is typically just punch in buttons and numbers. There was no tax strategy involved.
Right. Did you feel like he was getting you any kind of savings out of maybe like little deductions or something?
Yeah, like little bit here and there, but just no out of the box thinking for stuff. You had to do it on your own probably, and or you just didn't know, right?
And then did you, before you went to us, were you kind of problem aware? You kind of knew that you needed all this stuff, and had you been trying to did you interview other firms or look around at all?
So the reason I really came is I had a call with like Wealthability maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it sounded to me like they wanted me to pay so many thousands and then learn the tax code and do it myself. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's weird. But I didn't think much more of it. I said we knew we needed a will, but we never got to that. Um, but this other group that I'm involved with, Wealth Without Wall Street, they have these pillars, and so there's a vision, strategy, and vision, infinite banking, passive income, and then the last two are tax strategy and entity structuring. So it was like because of that, and saying, hey, you need to get all this in place, is why And then I think I that Scott was on one of their sessions too, and then I started looking around. But what really is the key, because I listen to podcasts and you get these people talking about this and bridge trust. When I went to the website and watched that initial video and you see it in picture form laid out, you're showing it, I was like, it all clicked. And I was like, this is it. So I think I might have checked, I've heard of Anderson Advisors as well, they sponsor, but I knew Wealthability didn't seem like the way to go, and maybe they changed, but it just wasn't it. So I was like, well, and then I attended like a summit, 2 or 3 day summit, and it was like, hey, we're offering this new program. I thought, well, I need all that. Let's try
Yeah. Nice. So what was your experience like once you pulled the trigger with us, going through, starting to work with the attorneys and the salespeople? Like I know we've kind of covered, but did you have any kind of feedback on the team, what that experience was like with different people, or Pete too?
Yeah, it's been good. Typically, like I said, it's been quick response. I had initial meetings with Scott and Pete, Scott and Jason. Of course, Scott drives those a little bit at the beginning, or maybe it was for me, he did, in those, and kind of did some brainstorming. And because I had a call with Pete maybe in the summer, like, and like just, and he's, and just kind of figure out, hey, can you guys see? He's like, well, you're W-2. I don't remember if I'd sold anything yet. He's kind of like, I don't know if we can help you much. So Scott had to kind of came up with some different ideas then too. But I can't remember when that call was compared to what I had going on then too.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, well, that's good too, right? Getting the team to ask the right questions is always important. Um, so I guess then looking back at your full experience with us, how likely are you to refer us to a friend or family on a scale like 1 to 10?
I'd say a 10.
Okay. And I guess for someone that's looking at, like if you were to refer someone looking at doing business with us, why should they move forward with us?
Well, I think there's the complete package. So everything, most everything's in-house. It's not like you got to farm out, a legal entity and or farm out a tax strategy. You guys have people in-house. There's great vision and strategy in helping clients to attain their goals and achieve the things that they want to do. So, yeah, I think that's the precise knowledge, especially in the real estate area, to be able to set things up and do it the right way. Whereas a lot of CPA, tax strategists, whatever, or entity structuring, they don't have the background and knowledge to be able to do it the way it should be done.